Hi, I'm Shane Irwin. Back in November of 2025, I had the great honor of interviewing Dr. Tom Wadsworth here in my home studio. Part of that interview you're about to see, it's about the subject of the purpose of the Christian gathering. If you ask almost anybody today, what's the purpose of the Christian gathering? Well, I know what their answer is, and it might just be a little bit different than what they think.
The problem is the New Testament nowhere states or implies that the purpose of the gathering is to do stuff for God. It's explicitly stated and commanded that let all you do when you get together, it should be done to build up one another. That's the point.
Right. Hebrews 10:24 and 25, we all know that. Don't forsake the assembling, but I tell people, look at the wording before and after that part. It says, gather together to build up one another, to encourage one another. Don't forsake the assembling so that you can build up one another.
Let me you're right. Specifically what Hebrews 10:24 says, let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, but encouraging one another. It's, to have a gathering, a Christian gathering, where the point is to stir up one another, to do good things, to good works, and to love one another and to love other people. Imagine if we actually did that every week, every year, every decade for our lives. I think we'd probably be getting better at doing good things in the community and for other people, and actually being loving, caring people. But I think we have developed an assembly style that does not foster that kind of development.
Absolutely. One anothering doesn't happen in most gatherings. I'll give a scenario. And there's a huge church down the road, and a friend of mine loves it there. And my wife Dawn and I went there for a year while we were engaged. It's a solid church as far as a traditional institutional church. The preacher preaches out of the Bible, but here's the thing: you walk in, a guy hands you a pamphlet and smiles at you, and says hello, and for the rest of the time, that might be the only person you talk to. And Dawn and I went there for, like I said, about a year. I don't recall having a conversation with anybody because there's so much hustle bustle. You're getting up to the upper mezzanine and you sit down and there's so many people, no one's talking to you. I don't see an ounce of one anothering going on there.
It's a concert experience almost, right?
It's very grand. They have the big choir and the thing, and it's really amazing. But there's no one anothering going on. Yeah. And they say, you have to come to our small groups for that and stuff. And to that I say, why? Why don't we make the whole gathering about what the Bible said it's supposed to be about to begin with?
Yeah, I do. It's important to say that there's nothing wrong with a large group of Christians getting together. Nothing wrong with somebody standing up and speaking to a large group of people, even for an hour if they wanted to. There's nothing wrong with some Christians standing up and delivering some music to a large group of Christians. But what is missing is one anothering. And this is the power of the first century church. Everybody being able to speak and to talk and to encourage and develop relationships with one another. That's where growth takes place. If people are not allowed to talk, to ask questions, to disagree, I don't think we're going to grow. And I know that I haven't grown in that kind of environment. Where I grow is where I have an opportunity to talk and at least express myself and become better at understanding my own faith and being able to express it and communicate it to other people. But if you don't have that opportunity in church, I'm afraid we're not discipling people well at all, and this has been going on for a long, long time. My videos they just took off a year or so ago, and they've now been viewed over 1 million times in over 110 countries, and I'm now getting responses from people in all these countries all over the world, and they're saying the same thing you just said. They're saying things like, I went to church for 20 years, with this worshiping God idea. And now for the last 8 weeks, I've been going to a small gathering in somebody's house where we're all encouraged to speak and talk. And I've grown more in the last 8 weeks than I grew in the last 20 years of going to church. I'm hearing that from every continent around the planet of people who simply have embraced 1 Corinthians 14:26 as a key verse that tells us what we should be doing when we gather together. It makes that kind of a difference. It's huge.
Yeah.
If somebody goes to a gathering where the purpose of the gathering is to worship God, if the building that they're gathering in is called a house of worship, if they're going through an order of worship and doing acts of worship, and then they closing worship with this until the next time we can worship together, what are we doing? How is this developing people? And I just think it might be developing people who are really worshipful, at least during that hour during the week. I'm not sure how it's changing much of what they're doing the rest of the week. I think this is a problem, and I think we've created a whole culture of Christians who are just known for going to church. But the gathering ought to be building up one another, building relationships, becoming stronger and more edified. I've used the word edification several times, but there are other words in the New Testament that talk about the purpose of the gathering: strengthening one another, encouraging one another. It's an encouragement session. It's an edifying session. It's a strengthening session. So we're becoming more mature as Christians. I think Paul said in Colossians 1:28, his goal was to present every person mature in Christ. I can see if somebody went to a gathering where the stated purpose of being there was to build up one another, not just to be built up by somebody, but to participate in the process of building up other people. And you do that every week for a whole month, I think you start to change. If you do that every week for a whole year, do that every week for a whole decade, do that every week for your life, I think we're going to start to develop Christians who are more loving, more kind, more compassionate, more stirring up one another to love and good works, doing good things in the community. Christians should then get to be known not as a bunch of arrogant jerks anymore, but as people who actually are useful in society, who know how to relate to one another, who are kind when they speak, gracious when they speak, and are admirable. I think this makes a big difference.
It really does.
Well, I hope that answered some questions, and I know it probably raised a lot of questions if you haven't been exposed to this teaching. Go ahead and drop some comments for me on my channel, or drop some for him on his channel. The video is going to be seen on both channels. Thank you for watching. We look forward to answering some questions, and I hope this helped.